All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about Palkhed, 1728. And this is a true masterclass in mobility, a military campaign that completely rewrote the rules of war in the 18th century. I want you to just picture this for a second. You're a soldier in this massive, powerful army. You've got the biggest cannons, the most troops, but none of it matters. Why? Because you're exhausted, you're literally dying of thirst, and you are completely surrounded. Your greatest strength has become your prison. That's exactly what it felt like at the climax of the Palkhed campaign. So the big question is, how on earth does an army that powerful get into a mess like that? Well, to understand the trap, we've got to rewind. We need to go back to the beginning of this whole thing and look at the two absolute titans at the heart of the conflict. Okay, so the scene is the early 1700s. The once mighty Mughal Empire, yeah, it's in a deep decline. And when a giant falls, it leaves a huge power vacuum. Stepping into that void are two major players. On one side, you've got the Nizam-ul-Mulk, who carves out his own powerful state down in Hyderabad, and his number one rival, the brilliant and incredibly ambitious Maratha Peshwa Baji Rao I. By 1727, their goals for the Deccan region were just totally irreconcilable. They were on a collision course. And you can see this coming just by looking at their armies. I mean, they were polar opposites. The Nizam's army was old school. Think of it like a heavyweight boxer. Slow, powerful, packed with a patchwork of heavy artillery and massive columns of troops. Baji Rao's army? The complete opposite. It was a merit-based machine built for one thing and one thing only: speed. All light cavalry, all about mobility. So what you have here is a classic showdown: brute strength versus lightning-fast agility. So let's talk about the problem Baji Rao was up against. Because if you just looked at this on paper, you would think he had absolutely no chance. The Nizam's army wasn't just big, it was a juggernaut, a seemingly unstoppable force designed to just steamroll any conventional army that stood in its way. I mean, the Nizam had it all: superior firepower, heavy artillery, a massive conventional force. Some have even described it as Panzer-like. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Its greatest strength was also its fatal flaw. This army was so heavy, so massive, that it was constantly bogged down by its own weight. And Baji Rao, he saw that weakness and knew it was the key. You know, you can almost feel what the Nizam's soldiers were thinking as the campaign starts. Even the veterans. They march out, ready for this huge, glorious battle. But the enemy never shows up. Not for a real fight, anyway. They're just always on the horizon, just out of reach. It had to be maddening. And that's when this creeping sense of dread starts to set in. The feeling that all your power might be completely useless. So what do you do? How do you beat an enemy that you just can't fight head-on? Well, this is where we see the absolute brilliance of Baji Rao. This is his masterclass. He didn't try to fight strength with strength. No, he decided to make the Nizam's strength completely irrelevant. The strategy he used is something we'd probably call attritional maneuver warfare today. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but so effective. Don't fight the army, fight its stomach. You don't attack the soldiers, you attack their supply lines. You use your speed to cut them off from food and water, and then you just let hunger, thirst, and exhaustion win the war for you. And his plan was beautiful, broken down into 4 steps. Step 1, absolutely refuse to give the Nizam the big, pitched battle he's desperate for. Step 2, use your fast-moving cavalry to hit his logistics, his supply hubs, his lines of communication. Step 3, lure that huge, slow army into a grueling, soul-crushing chase. And finally, step 4, once they're cut off and exhausted, you starve them into submission. Think of it like this. It's basically guerrilla warfare, but on a grand scale. Baji Rao's horsemen would just materialize out of thin air, hit a supply train, and then poof, vanish into the tree line before those huge, slow cannons could even turn to face them. And the effect was just devastating. For the poor guys in the Nizam's army, the greatest threat wasn't a Maratha sword. It was the gnawing emptiness in their stomachs and the burning thirst in their throats. Starvation and thirst became far more dangerous than any blade. So after months of this relentless, brutal chase, you have to imagine the state of the Nizam's army. They're completely exhausted, totally demoralized, and just running on fumes. And this is the moment Baji Rao has been waiting for. The trap is about to be sprung. We're now in February 1728. The long, agonizing chase is finally over. Baji Rao has painstakingly maneuvered the Nizam exactly where he wants him. The final act is about to begin.
He's got the Nizam's army cornered near a place called Palkhed. And it's not just any place. Baji Rao has masterfully herded this massive force into a dry, barren, waterless region. It's the perfect trap, a place where all of the Nizam's advantages would count for absolutely nothing. Think about it. Those massive cannons, the Nizam's pride and joy, completely neutralized. They were quite literally dead in the water. There was no water for the animals to pull them. There was no clear enemy to shoot at. They were just dead weight. So there you have it. The Nizam is trapped. His army is thirsty, demoralized, and surrounded. There's no way out. The campaign is over. He's been completely and utterly outplayed. And now it was time to face the consequences.
The end comes on March 6, 1728. The Nizam is forced to sign a humiliating treaty. And here's the kicker. He officially loses the war without ever getting the one thing he wanted, that big, glorious set-piece battle. For Baji Rao and the Marathas, the victory was total.
And the legacy of this victory was enormous. It basically sealed the fate of Hyderabad's expansion plans and cemented the Maratha Empire as the ruling force in the region. But maybe most importantly, it was a profound military lesson for the ages. A smaller, more mobile force could defeat a larger conventional one by attacking its logistics. The scars of this defeat would shape politics for decades. At the end of the day, Palkhed was more than just a victory. It was a turning point. It proved that an empire's strength could be turned against it. It showed that if an army couldn't adapt, it didn't matter how powerful it was vulnerable. Baji Rao didn't just win a campaign, he showed the world how mobility itself could impale an empire.
And that leaves us with a really powerful thought, one that goes way beyond 18th century battlefields, right? You can apply this to anything: war, business, our own lives. In any conflict, what is the true cost of being bogged down by your own strength? When do the things we think make us strong actually become the anchors that hold us back?